All year round, Frontier Home Products and Design has what you need to make your home comfortable and beautiful. Relax on a new timber tech deck designed by Frontier's experts. A new fireplace from Frontier Home Products Fireplace Gallery adds warmth and serenity to any home. Beauty and versatility at Frontier Home Products and Design Center, 4213 Peachtree, East 5th, next to the Bayfront Highway.
Frontier Home Products and Design Center. Discover a new frontier.
PA contractor number PA039007.
Get paid to drive. Start a new career behind the wheel at the EMTA. If you are looking for a high-paying and rewarding career with full benefits and paid training, stop by or apply online today with the EMTA. Plus, EMTA riders can now enjoy free Wi-Fi on new, clean, and environmentally friendly buses to travel all over Erie County. Visit ridethee.com for more information.
Get on board EMTA. Get on board EMTA. Get on board.
Welcome to TalkErie.com's Joel Natale Show, Erie, Pennsylvania's daily podcast. Every day, we tackle the biggest issues that the Erie, PA region faces. Stay informed and involved as we advance the narrative of Erie. Now, here's Joel Natale.
On the phone with me is a junior senator from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, Senator Dave McCormick, with his first appearance since taking the oath. Senator McCormick, great to have you back on Talk Erie.
Hey, thanks, Joel. Thanks for having me. And, an exciting day. We just got news. I'm sorry, I'm walking through the Capitol here, so forgive the noise. But we just got news a couple hours ago that Mark Fogel has been released from Russian prison. He's been in prison since 2021. He's a Pennsylvanian, Western Pennsylvania, Indiana County, and he's been released, and he'll land later tonight. And this is such a great win for Pennsylvania, for his family. President Trump did a great job of leading the charge here, and I had had a chance to get to know his mother, Martha, during the campaign, and she was at Butler, sitting a couple seats away from me when President Trump was shot.
Wow.
And she's a 95-year-old, and she's going to get to hug her son, which I think she wondered if she'd ever be able to do that. So we're really happy about it.
Hey, you got to wonder about these results that we're seeing here. You know, we're seeing releases of the hostages from Hamas. We're seeing the release of Mark Fogel. We're seeing the we'll talk about USAID in a second here, but Trump is about the results, and it is fascinating to watch. What do you think about all that, Senator?
Well, absolutely. And, President Trump said he met Mark's mom at that Butler rally. She then subsequently came to visit my wife and me, and we talked to Senator Rubio, now Secretary Rubio, about this. And I asked him questions about this during the testimony. And Senator Rubio said that this was a priority for him and for President Trump. And sure enough, here we are 22 days in, and we have the release of Pennsylvania. And this could have happened before. But what it takes is leadership. What it takes is putting America's interests first. And I think this is what America First means, which is you're out there fighting for America's interests and making sure that Americans are taken care of. And I think this is a good example of that happening.
It's astounding. Let's continue with this leadership tack. And I want to ask you about USAID and the Doge thing, and do you see any things that are concerning to you, or what's your take on this approach to weeding out corruption?
Well, let's start with a promise. President Trump made a promise he was going to shake up Washington. He made a promise that he was going to drive down spending. We have $36 trillion of debt. Our children are never going to forgive us for the way we're spending away their futures. And he said he was going to get in there and reduce cost. He was going to make sure that the taxpayer money was being spent on things that Americans and Pennsylvanians believe made sense. And what we find with foreign assistance, USAID, is that we have all sorts of millions of dollars, taxpayer dollars, being spent on LGBTQ initiatives around the world, DEI stuff, that no American or most American taxpayers would say they never want their money for that. So listen, foreign assistance can be used to support America's interests, to combat China, key initiatives. But what happened is it clearly lost its way. And so I 100% support the idea that to do a turnaround, which is what President Trump's doing for the country and for AID, you got to have shock therapy. And that's what's happening. Every expense coming under scrutiny, getting rid of the bad decision makers that made these decisions, cutting back on the cost of the bureaucracy, and unlocking our government in a way that it really does what it's supposed to, which is serve the people. And so I think, it's going to be messy sometimes. You're going to cut things that needed to be in place, and you're going to have to go back and fix it. But the big picture is you got to go big and you got to go hard to make the kind of changes that are needed.
The critics are saying, well, people are going to die because of this tactic, and what everybody thought USAID was about were the big bags of grain, to places where there was famine and things. Can we keep that with maybe without all this stuff that's on the periphery, if you will?
Well, first, let's start with the fact that people are dying right now. People are dying in the United States. People are dying in Pennsylvania. We lost 100,000 Americans last year from fentanyl. Mm-hmm. We have people living in poverty in Pennsylvania. The American dream is not available for everybody. So there's a lot of priorities, and we need to make sure that we're focused on the ones that are going to serve America best. America's always been a generous nation. We've always been a nation that's been generous around the world, and we'll continue to do that. But we need to do that in a way that it directly supports America's interests. So, for example, China has been building its influence around the world with a Belt and Road strategy. We need to combat that with American support to key countries around the world, but we need to do that in a very strategic way. It's in America's interest. What happened with USAID is we spend $40 billion a year, and a lot of that money is going to things that doesn't matter to Americans, it doesn't matter to Pennsylvanians, and that is what we got to stop. And as I said, you got to have shock therapy to get things back on track, and that's what's happening.
Let's go to where DOGE is putting their next efforts, and that is in the Department of Education. There just was a breaking story that they're looking to close the DOE. Education's a big deal around Pennsylvania. What's your take? What's the proper federal role in basic ed, higher ed, and so on?
Well, first, let's start with the fact that our education system is failing us. We are losing competitiveness in the world. We're now 27th in the world. So we're spending billions of more every year on the Department of Education, and our education is getting worse. So we got to start with the fact that the system is failing. And the most important thing I think we can do is push decision-making down to individual communities and down to families where they have school choice. And the government should play some role in ensuring appropriate education standards. But mostly we want parents in the driver's seat in selecting the educational option that's best for them. That's how we unlock opportunity for everybody. Right now, school choice already exists. It just exists for the rich kids. Now, what we want to do is make sure kids across Pennsylvania, whether it's Philadelphia or Lancaster County or in the northern tier, have every opportunity to go to a school that best fits them. And so I think what the federal government should do is essentially enable that by making it easier for people to give money to school choice, set minimal regulations, make sure there's quality, and then push educational opportunity down to the individual level and individual communities. And so I don't think the Department of Education is showing that it's doing much for most Pennsylvanians, and that's why I think it's an appropriate area to radically reduce spending. But there's lots of other areas, and that's what the whole DOGE effort is about. It's to bring the greatest disinfectant is transparency. Yeah. So shine the light for every taxpayer to see, here's how we're spending your money, and are you comfortable with that? And I think what most Americans are seeing is the more visibility they get, the more transparency, the less happy they are with how their money is being spent, and the more grateful they are to have President Trump leading the way and shaking things up.
Quickfill gasoline is made right here in America. United Refining Company, who operates Quickfill, refines its gasoline from North American crude oil in Warren, Pennsylvania. When you buy United Refining Company gasoline at Quickfill, you keep jobs and businesses in America, and you keep American families strong. You don't need to send your money overseas when you buy gasoline. Buy American-made gasoline at Quickfill. Quickfill, driving America.
From baggage claim to pajamas in 10 minutes. Erie International Airport. Fly with ERI.com.
Fly Erie International Airport to Charlotte on American Airlines, your nonstop gateway to the world. Also, we have Breeze Airways flying nonstop to Orlando and Tampa, Florida. A great low-cost carrier providing excellent service to the regional community. Fly Erie International for your travel needs.
Fly with ERI.com.
You have been called
to do good,
to feed the hungry,
to love with action,
to be a light in the darkness,
to love your neighbor,
to teach wisdom,
to walk humbly,
to love mercy, to care for the least of these.
Will you accept the call?
This is our city.
Our mission.
Visit eriecitymission.org/volunteer to accept the call today.
We've got Senator Dave McCormick on the line here on Talk Erie. I want you to talk about your approach to the votes for the cabinet members. What's your take on Trump's picks? You pretty much have been in the affirmative for all of these so far.
Yeah, here's my approach, and I think first and foremost, President Trump ran as a disruptor. So you're not going to see some of his candidates, some of his nominees. They're not going to be traditional people. The traditional people have gotten us into this big mess. The status quo people have gotten into this mess. So he's going to, by definition, pick a cabinet that's full of disruptors, and I think that's what he's doing. And my bias is to try to help him get the team he thinks he needs to be successful. But at the same time, I've got a responsibility as an independent voice to advise and consent. And so I've tried to take that very seriously. I've met with every nominee. When they're in my committee, I've asked them questions myself in open committee. When I haven't been in the committee, I've watched their testimony very carefully. And I've placed a vote with the idea that I want to give the president's team, but I also have a responsibility. And that's how I've gotten to the votes that I've gotten to. And to be honest with you, Joel, I'd feel the same way if it was a Democrat in the White House. Yeah. If that person won the popular vote, won the Electoral College, and had the mandate that President Trump had, I'd say, you know what? I'm not sure I'm comfortable with all the choices that president was making for the nominees, but I'm going to vote for him. And in President Trump's case, I not only feel that way, but I'm also comfortable with the choices he's made, and that's why I'm supporting them.
Let me pick up some of these issues that have kind of flared up in the transition. There's a lot of talk right now about former members of the executive branch, former DNIs, and again, you understand the alphabet soup better than I do, but they continue to have security details long after they've left office or their post here. Do you think that that's appropriate? Let's say for Mike Pompeo to continue to have a taxpayer paid security detail. What's the best way to land on this?
Yeah. Well, in the case, it's obviously going to depend case by case, and I'm not privy to the intelligence of and how that's changed and whether there's still a threat. But Mike Pompeo, who I know, and a number of other folks were very involved in executing President Trump's foreign policy in the first term. And one of the key foreign policy successors of President Trump was killing Soleimani, who was the Iranian terrorist leader who was really orchestrating the terror that's taking place across the Middle East and all these proxies. That was a huge strategic win for President Trump. And a number of people like Mike Pompeo and several others were put on the terrorist hit list because of that. And so that's why that security was put in place. And I basically think that if people are fighting for us in government service and doing great things like killing Soleimani and their lives are at risk because of that, then we should give them security and support them even after they've left government. Now, I don't know if the security situation has changed. I haven't had a chance to talk to President Trump about that. I will at some point, and if it's changed, that's a different thing. But I would be supportive of continuing that. And so if the decision was made otherwise, I would respectfully disagree. I think we should continue to provide security for those that have put their life on the line and are at risk because they did that on behalf of the president.
Another thing that's come up here again, within 24 hours of President Trump taking office, he issued the broad pardon for the January 6th rioters. Many came from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Was that appropriate, Senator McCormick?
Well, I mean, what happened in the final days and weeks of the Biden administration was unbelievable, where he issued more pardons than any president in history, over 4,000 pardons, a number of those convicted murderers, rapists. So, and of course, he preemptively pardoned his entire family. So right. I think what's happening on these pardons is a very slippery slope. When President Trump came in, he pardoned all the folks involved in January 6th. I had said during the campaign, and I continue to believe, that those pardons were appropriate for those who were not involved in any violent action, and many peaceful protesters got caught up in that, and I think they've been more than punished for that and should be pardoned. For those that conducted actual violence against law enforcement, I've got respectfully a different view on that. I think they shouldn't have been pardoned. That's what I said during the campaign, and I still believe that to be the case.
We've got less than a minute with Senator Dave McCormick. As we get through these first 100 days, what's your focus, and what are you hoping to accomplish in bringing what your special gift mix to bear in your seat there in the Senate?
Well, I got a whiteboard with the 10 promises I made to the people of Pennsylvania, and at the top of the list, unlock energy, deregulate, get our energy economy working in Pennsylvania, get inflation under control, and make it easier for working families to have the American dream by creating job opportunity and reducing prices, and stop the flow of illegal immigrants and fentanyl from the border, which is killing our communities. Those were the three big issues. Maybe finally, bring law and order to our cities. Those were the issues I ran on. Those are the kitchen table issues. There's a lot going on, but everything I do is sort of focused on trying to make sure that we make big successes, big wins on those areas in the coming days and weeks. And so far, we're off to a very strong start.
There you go, Senator Dave McCormick, appearing here on Talk Erie. We really appreciate you taking the time, and we wish you well.
Thank you, sir. Good to be with you.
You've been listening to The Joel Natale Show, Erie, Pennsylvania's daily podcast from TalkErie.com. Subscribe to our show on your favorite podcatcher and get involved by emailing joel@TalkErie.com.